We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, ViewRail.
America's leading manufacturer of floating stairs and modern cable glass railings.
They handle every part of the process, from design, engineering, manufacturing, delivery, all the way to installation.
There is a 10-year structural and finish warranty on all products installed by ViewRail certified technician.
Nearly all components are made in-house, giving you more control over style, material, finishes, budget, and timeline.
All products are designed as a modular integrated system that are engineered for easy installation. It's like putting together an erector set.
Thanks so much again, ViewRail, for sponsoring this episode. Welcome back to the Passion for Craft podcast. Today, we're talking about North Bennett Street School. Hard to explain without just jumping right into it. So I'm building a cabinet in school. That's like one of our projects in the first year. You build a tool cabinet, dovetailed corners. You build a double panel door that goes on it. Just a shaker tool cabinet. Idea is it'll go on the wall, it'll hang, it'll store some of our tools. I've made mine specifically for my planes, and I've done it with some little cool inserts that are exactly the dimensions and widths of the plane. So each plane kind of slots directly in, and it looks kind of visually appealing on the bottom. I'm going to hang some planes on the top. Anyway, so that's the project. The option, I think, if you're moving a little bit quicker, or if you've had a tendency in the previous projects to move a little quicker, you have the ability to, I think Steve is trying to slow us down and lets us kind of do some extra modifications on it, potentially. Not for everyone. I think some people would prefer to go really slow, get the joints exactly correct and everything else like that. I was struck by inspiration, wanted to do a pediment on top of it, and really had to push hard to try and get Steve to allow me to do it. He's allowed me to do it, but it will probably be a second-year project. So it's not like I can finish it right now. But I have completed, up till now, my cabinet, and I am now getting ready to start working on the pediment.
Okay.
As I'm working on the pediment, I'm realizing how little I know on how to make a pediment.
Correct.
So can I kind of walk you through my thought process, and you just kind of give me that's a good idea, or that's a bad idea?
Yes.
Is that a good way of approaching this thing?
Sure.
Okay. I think the ultimate topic that we want to get to on this episode is what you did and didn't learn at North Bennett Street, what you had to fill in the gaps of your knowledge with.
Okay.
And I think we can talk more broadly about that as much as you want, but I think this is a good jumping off point.
Sure.
But I think talking about pediments is also pretty cool.
I agree.
We're also combining two topics here, so maybe it just combines two topics that we had written in advance.
I don't think it is.
It is.
You're telling me it is?
Yeah, we had 4 topics. One of them was talking about making a pediment and moldings. And the other one was what you didn't learn.
Oh, I see.
North Bennett.
Yeah, we probably are combining this. You're right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
You want to break it up?
Nope.
All right.
Yes.
I want to do a broken pediment.
Okay.
Scrolled broken pediment. No, I'm just kidding. Isn't that really advanced?
Yes.
Okay. I have a cabinet that has been built. And some of this cabinet is kind of fixed. So I can't really change a lot of the things on this. If I was really trying to do this pedimented cabinet, what I probably would have done was made pilasters on either side to kind of support the pediment.
Okay. Don't need that.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
Why not?
Well, the pediment is basically a entablature.
Okay.
Architrave, frieze, cornice. Okay. The pediment is the cornice kicked up at an angle. So you don't need columns to support that. It can be like a door header or a mantle or anything like that. The architrave spans the opening tectonically. That's how it's being supported. You know, that's how it's rational.
Yeah.
The frieze lifts it over that, and the cornice is above that. You don't need columns to communicate that. In fact, in some ways, the columns could overbuild that, right? It's just like, my gosh, putting, jewelry on a
lipstick on a pig.
Well, I don't think that's exactly the thing, but it's just a little elevated for a tool chest.
Yeah. So what I did was I went to some examples of pediments.
Okay.
That was kind of my starting off point. So one of the books that I went to was Get Your House Right.
Yep.
And there weren't a lot of examples of broken pediments in there.
I was about to say, I don't think she has anything.
Which is fine, but there is a layout of entablature.
Okay.
Which was really helpful.
Yep.
And 1D, 2D, that kind of layout.
Sure.
So it's a dimensioned layout where I get to go, and she's even laid it out to where it's your architrave should be 3/4 D.
Sure.
Your frieze should be 3/4 D. And then your Cornice should be 1/2 D. Well, it just depends on the style that you're talking about.
Exactly.
So that was kind of like what I ended up with because I was trying to go for like a Tuscan style, whatever, because I wanted to kind of go back to Greek Revival, Tuscany, somewhere in that range.
Well, I mean, I would be picking Tuscany because it's simple and clean and not, crazy.
It also helps because we don't have a lot of options in molding profiles.
Sure.
So that was kind of like why. Anyway, so that was what I started off with. I drew it up. I did it. And it's massive. Like the height of my tool cabinet is almost dwarfed by this pediment that I'm putting on top of it. So I was like, that doesn't look right. And you've always said in your videos, like, kind of follow the traditions, but then adjust based on like what's going to look right and help like kind of figure out those middle things. Which I think, just talking to someone who is trying to build a pediment with no experience beforehand on how to do it, it's kind of like, okay, I just need like a step-by-step. I need like I see. Okay, do this, do that.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit like, okay, I'm hitting a dead end here because I don't really know what to do. So I went and looked at other books, and I started like trying to proportion it and put it together. So I made like this proportion one, and then I was like, okay, how do I assemble this? Because then I started thinking like, all right, I need to start milling these parts if I'm going to go like for this example. And so I was like, okay, I don't even know how to assemble a cornet or what is it called? I'm thinking pediment. So this is how I was thinking about doing it.
Okay.
I'm almost going to make a carcass. And so it's for a box. It's sitting on top of a tool chest. So I'm going to make it the carcass, the dimensions of the
tool chest. Just so we're clear, it looks like a medicine cabinet hanging on your wall.
I just sent Austin a bunch of photos of it. I think he'll see it.
Okay.
I think it'll be okay. Cool. So I'm basically going to set this carcass on top of the tool cabinet.
The carcass being the pediment?
It will become the pediment. The carcass is 3 boards that are screwed together that will become the pediment.
Okay.
So just imagine this. It's almost going to be like the pediment I'm making is like a hat that goes on top of my tool cabinet. Because there's a 1/4 inch molding or an 1.25 inch molding that runs across the top of my tool cabinet.
Well, the way you're moving your hands, that's the architrave.
That's
casing.
My architrave. Yes.
It's your casing, right?
Yes. So there's the casing, and the casing is 2.5 inches.
Right.
The architrave, what I'm going to define as the architrave, because it made it too massive if I did it any other way.
The frieze.
No. What I'm going to define as the architrave is out of that 2.5 inch casing, I'm going to take the 1.25 inch, so half of it, which has a molding on it.
Tinea.
The tinea, and I'm just going to call that my dimension for the...
Why?
Because if I do it the other way and I do it properly proportioned, it will be ginormous.
Okay, well, if your casing's 2.5, your frieze is 2.5, now you're 5 inches above the thing, and then your cornice is probably, with a broken pediment, would be a foot above that. It just gets too big.
It's massive. Yeah. It's so high, and it's dwarfing my cabinet.
Okay.
So I'm shrinking a lot of those dimensions down proportionally.
Yep.
So that it makes it feel a little more closer to the cabinet.
Sure.
So, is that allowed? Is that okay to do?
100%. Yeah.
Cool.
And as you get, I mean, you are tackling a pretty sophisticated piece for being year one apprentice.
Yeah. Steve said this is like completely out of your bounds, but if you want to pursue this and try and figure it out, I'm willing to let you try. You just may have to do stuff after hours. And I was like, I'm great with that. But I want to try.
When I was building the pediment, okay, and I did it on YouTube, and like it's one of the only ones out there on building a pediment.
You're right.
I was intrigued because of the raking moldings, okay? And basically a rake is the angled crown that comes down that then turns back, and when those two moldings come together, the raking return, they're different size. And so I was saying there has to be a simpler way to do the pediment. And so I'm 59 now. I was probably 57 at the time. I'd seen a lot of different examples, and I had a library of books to go look back and look at. So I think, I'm saying all that because late in my career did I start trying to figure that out. And here you are, year one, and you're trying to figure that out. Just to put it in perspective, right? It's hard. It's really hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah. I mean, Richard, master craftsman, right? He was saying, I couldn't have done it without seeing your video, right? Yeah. It's hard to do.
And to be fair, like, no offense on your video's cheating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Like, you're laughing. I was like, oh crap, is it cheating? No,
yeah,
it is.
No, it is. I'm faking the molding because I don't think people, because it's such a short run of moldings, I don't think people are going to actually cut a knife to do the raking return.
People aren't going to do it.
They're not.
Even in my school, I'm like trying to figure out like, how can I do this without cheating it? And I don't think there's a way to not cheat it. By the way, my classmate Ryan is also going to do one of these as well. And so he and I, we've got his cabinet as well. His cabinet is awesome. He already did his part that like is extra, that was meant to slow him down, and he's already done with that. But his is cool. We're benchmates, so we're across from each other. Like, how do we freaking figure this out? We're like, I have no idea. I don't know what to do. We're trying to figure it out, and it's even our two heads put together, we're like coming up short. So I'm really like, I can't figure this out at all. Yeah. One, you got a great opportunity for a video there because I think pediments would look way cooler on a lot more things. Maybe that's just asking for an influx of terrible pediments, but
it is. But no,
I
but
think
you're
there's
right.
no way to get better than to do them badly at first. So I've kind of like resolved to be like, whatever I'm making here is going to be bad, but it's a little hat that goes on top of my building. And so, or on my cabinet. So I can just take it off and make a new one and feel better about it in a couple of years. But I'm wanting to try. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. So
I think one of the hardest things would be proportioning the moldings properly.
Okay, yes, that's step 2, but I'm not even there yet because I need to figure out how to assemble this
because I doubt there's a bed mold out there that would be the right size. You're going to have to make your own.
Yes, you're right, which is okay because I didn't realize this, but you can actually make your own moldings if you have other molding profiles. Like, you can just make your own by cutting them down and ripping them at different widths.
100%.
Which, that's really cool. Not enough people talk about this. Do people know about this?
I do. That's why I talk about my videos. You need to be able to recognize these shapes so that you can rip them off. Because that's what I did in Canada. Yeah. There's terrible moldings up there.
Really?
And I had to make my own by taking what they had and saying, I need the cove off that crown. Yeah. And I need the cyma off that. And anyway.
You're saying a couple words that I'm like, I've heard them before.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know what they mean. Like, Ryan is really up on his vocabulary. And so I'm not. He's like, so we've got this OG here. I'm like, OG is. He's like, the sine wave shape. Okay, yeah. And then we've got the cyma. What part's the cyma? Yeah. Anyway, so a little bit embarrassing myself there, but
no, it's not. They're not natural terms, right? Yeah. They're. I mean, bed molds may be the most common, or crown, or something like that. But those, when you get into the archaic tinea and architrave and all the different things, it's a whole. It's like there's a different word for everything.
Well, it's good. Like it's good that it's funny because while Ryan and I are talking about this, our other classmates are kind of looking around at us like, what are y'all talking about over there? Like, what are y'all doing over there? You're doing math over there? What are you trying to figure out? It's funny. Colin, who's a furniture maker, who's a really skilled furniture maker, he was even like, a lot of terms going on over here. What are you guys doing? I'll just say, so I am going to make the two sides where the raking returns are going to fall. That is going to be like my two sides of this thing that will sit on top, right?
Okay.
So they'll just sit up like that. The height of where the split fillet will fall.
Okay.
That's like how high those pieces are going to go. Just imagine that. All right. And then the next piece is a piece that will sit in front of those two pieces. Mm-hmm. And that piece will have a little bit of a slant to it. And then I'll cut out the little inset part. And then that piece, we'll cut up the top. Okay. That's what I need. Explain why not. Because what I was going to do is I was going to build out my moldings on top of each of those parts. Right?
Yeah. Did you see the broken pediment we hung in the?
Should I go bring it in here?
Well, that's what he sent's not a broken pediment. The broken pediment is actually
no. I mean the one with the cross on top of it.
Yeah, you can bring that piece in there
because that's what I'm modeling everything off of at this point.
Bring that piece in there.
Oh, this is awesome. I've been looking at this thing so much in like 3 photos that you've sent me, and I'm trying to figure out like all these different things. It's so helpful to see these like one top-down dimension and then also side and other stuff.
Okay, so realize that this is the let me start this way. What order is this, Jackson?
This is another thing. One of the professors at North Bennett Street has said they're wanting to start teaching how to identify orders based on moldings, because that's not something that's currently taught at North Bennett.
It's not
in the first year, at least. So
you don't really identify orders by moldings. Like you couldn't look at a molding and go, "That's a Doric molding."
Okay, I didn't know that until right now.
Yeah,
that's helpful to know. I guess so. It's all about the proportions of what we're seeing from here to here. Well, here, and there.
Yeah. Right? So this is the Doric order. Okay. It's a mutilated Doric.
Mutilated?
Mutilated, because these are mutuals here. Okay. And
those aren't dentals?
Nope. So this is the bed mold. Okay. Yep. The mutual, corona, and then your cimation, right?
Yep. And this is a split fillet?
And that's your split fillet.
Okay.
Realize that the scallop and all that stuff happens back there against the wall. It doesn't happen with any of these moldings.
I didn't realize that. I actually thought this was way further up front in plane with this.
No, it's on plane in the back.
So that's actually back set way more than I realized.
Yeah.
So that will be.
So all of this is overhang, right? Remember, this is roof overhang. So you want it coming forward.
Right.
And that roof wall set back here.
Oh, no, these are on plane.
With the back wall, I'm saying with the back. With this cutout.
This cutout is a little bit more, it is close to on plane with this. But there's interstice in these columns, so it's a little hard to tell.
I know, but this is your overhang.
I understand. I know.
So so what you've got, instead of having columns that come up here, okay, you have basically this running around here, okay? Yeah. Then you've got your frieze, okay, which is this piece here.
And are these triglyphs applied?
Yes.
So they're another piece that's just fastened on.
Correct.
That's cool.
Not
carved out.
We're implying the goutte here, okay, which is the thought to be nails. Okay, so you got and then so what you're. This is why I'm saying one. This isn't that much bigger than yours.
No. Okay? This is actually really similar to the size.
So look how small that.
Do you have a tape in here?
No.
Were you just looking for one?
No.
Okay.
Look how small this architrave is. That architrave is what, an inch?
I thought this was the architrave.
No.
Because this is equivalently the door, no?
The architrave spans the opening. The architrave is always what's going to. King beam is what that merge. Arca, trave. King. Trave is beam, king beam. So that's the thing that's going to span the opening. That's why a door casing is an architrave, because it spans the opening. This is actually sitting in almost inside the opening. But if you're thinking about carrying the weight above, the architrave is the piece that sits above. Okay. So that's running across. That's an inch. And then the frieze is 1.5 inches, let's say.
Yeah.
There's no wonder yours is getting to be a big hat. If you've got 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches, then all of a sudden look how big it is. So, you might be playing around with the proportions of these different moldings so that it all doesn't get too top heavy.
Yeah. But I guess the question then becomes like, how much can you play with those proportions? Because the funniest thing is like the page where it describes all those proportions is don't mess with these. And then it shows all these examples of like when you do the proportions wrong. So I guess I'm kind of like, I want to do the proportions right, but do I scale them down but keep them in the same proportions to each other? Is that how you do it?
You're probably going to have to make one or two and go, that's too big. That's too big. Wait, I screwed that up.
So now here's where it gets even crazier, right?
And the other thing you could do is draw it out full scale.
That's what I'm doing. I'm doing it with stereotomy too.
Yeah, you should. In fact, probably what I would do is I would draw this whole thing out and draw this thing up and then shade it and then stand back and look at it and start playing around with those different moldings and different things until I got it looking closer.
So
but everything would be full scale, because then once you draw your bed mold, you'll actually have on there full scale. That's how big my bed mold should be.
So we've got a strip that's been run that's working as my moldings that fall inside the panel. It's like 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to take that one and use that as our bed molding and maybe cut it down one more so it's 1/4 of an inch. I think that is a helpful start of a bed mold because then we can start to scale everything up off of that point. But one thing, there's so much here because it's crazy. This is so much conceptual. All these different shapes down here, this is still just the cimation? Like what?
That's the bed mold.
Okay, up until this thing, mutual?
Up until the corona.
That's the corona.
Yeah.
Isn't
Corona
there
is the
something
flat part.
Isn't it,
Bed mold, corona.
cimation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cimation is just the crown at the top.
This is the corona. So this whole thing is the bed mold?
Well, the bed mold is supporting the mutuals. The mutuals don't
count?
Yeah, you don't really see those in other things. Mutuals could go away.
Right.
It could be a denticulated ionic where the mutuals go away and you have a dental molding in there. And it sits between the bed mold, two pieces of the bed mold. So they
don't count as the part of the proportion?
No. I mean, I wouldn't, but
but here's the deal. This is where I'm like trying to figure out like how to build it from square one.
right?
And I'm like drawing it first, right? Which is what we've been taught is good practice.
Yeah.
You're nodding along. I like that. So I'm drawing it and I'm going, okay, I have the casing, which is my architrave, 2.5 inches, too big. Drop it down a little bit, right? Now it's 1.25 inches.
Do you want to get a whiteboard out here and I'll just show you what size it should be?
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like that's cheating, honestly.
No, I mean because I don't think we can describe this thing until we can look
Draw
at
it.
Yeah, draw it and actually go. Yeah, because this piece is too big. Now let's see what's wrong with this and see what's going on here.
Okay, Austin is a champ. He's going to get the whiteboard right now. Amazing. While he's doing that, can I ask you another question?
Yes.
The other thing it says is you want to make sure that your topmost molding is a supporting molding, right?
Topmost is a terminating molding. Supporting molding is the bed mold.
Right. But no, the cimation should be
Topmost. It's a terminating molding. Ta-da.
Yeah.
Supporting molding is
I thought supporting was like supporting.
No, supporting is coming up under like this. You're not going to support much out here.
You're right. Okay. All right. We've moved around like 9 different times because class is now in session. Student of 1 right here.
Okay. So here's the deal. Let's just pretend that this is the architrave of your.
Good.
Okay. So here is 2.5 inches architrave, and you got a tinea on the back band. Okay. So
what's a tinea?
Tinea.
What is that?
It's the back band of your thing. So let's just say your thing looks like this.
I can draw what it looks like.
We're just going to pretend. Okay.
Don't you want to do the exact one so you have my exact?
Okay. Yes, Jackson, you can draw too.
That's not what I'm getting at. It's like that.
That's it? That's a drawing? What is that?
I don't know. I've been tracing it up until now.
Okay.
So not that one. But
okay, just please step away from this. This is a professional's area. Sorry, son. Okay, so let's just say this is 2.5 inches, right? This area here.
Sure.
Okay, that's 2.5 inches. That means your frieze should be roughly in the same range. Okay, let's just say it's 2.5 inches. Okay, then this is where the bed mold's going to start. So we're going to have a bed mold, right? And then you've got the soffit, this area that kicks out, that kicks this way. Ours is not mutulated, so we don't have to go that far. We go up. This is our corona, and then our little cove goes in there, and then it goes. Okay.
Okay.
So there's your bed mold. Here's your cornice.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's your bed mold, corona, cimation.
And then frieze is down below.
Frieze is right here.
So if that is 2.5 inches.
This is frieze. This is architrave. And this is cornice.
So what I'm seeing here is the architrave and the frieze are almost the same size as the cornice itself.
No, the cornice should be bigger.
I know. I'm saying architrave and frieze together is almost the same size as the cornice from what you've drawn.
Yeah. I was not trying to proportion it out. I'm just
Forgive me for thinking.
I'm drawing this thing up. Now, here's what happens. With a broken pediment, okay, I'm going to take, we talk about a split fillet, okay? Your cove is under here. This cove is going to run across, and right here is where this goes up at an angle.
Yeah.
Okay? And so then what I'm doing is once this goes across, then I'm filling in. There's the cove. Here's the corona. Okay, there's that flat spot, and then there's a bed mold underneath there.
Yeah.
Okay, so those things are going up at the angle, which is what's happening here.
So there's one crown.
If I push this down, it would become just this straight cornice, but I'm actually going to go tilt.
Yeah.
And it's all the same proportions and everything else just get moved up.
Yeah.
Right?
So just from what I'm seeing, you have a bed mold is here, right?
Yeah.
Then what is this part?
Corona.
And then split fillet, right?
Right.
So
well, the split fillet, a fillet is a flat. So the split fillet's actually happening right there. This is a cove. The top of that is your fillet, and the fillet's split because it's running back up and across.
Okay. So you've got a cove.
Yeah.
Corona.
Yeah.
And a bed mold.
Yeah.
And then this is the crown.
Right. Cimation. Yeah. Correct.
So there's only one crown on. You don't replicate the crown, but you do everything else. Those three pieces get duplicated, and then the crown sits on top of that.
Yeah. This is the pivot I do in my videos where this crown, this cove comes up and goes right back at a 90 degree. This one can't do that. And that's where you split the top part of that crown so that it can run back.
Okay. So any extra height that you're actually getting from the piece. So the pieces itself is like fine right there across the whole length of it, right? Yeah. And then any extra, when you kick it up,
your pivot
you're actually
point
not
is
kicking
right there.
Out. You're actually going down with all the same stuff again.
Underneath
but you're adding a crown on top, and that's on the extra height, right?
No.
Look.
Because all I've done is this is my pivot point.
Yeah.
And this thing just goes up.
Yeah. So you're basically just putting a crown on top of that.
No, your crown's right there, and it's going straight up.
I know it. So if this is now level because you've kicked it up, this is now level. You put a crown on top. I must be saying it wrong because that's exactly what you're describing and what I'm seeing.
I'm not putting an extra crown on top. That crown's there whether I tilt it up or not.
Right, I know. Yeah.
I'm not adding a crown on top. I'm just pivoting.
I'm just thinking from a manufacturing it standpoint because when I'm cutting these pieces, I'm cutting 2 bed molds, right? 1, 2 per side, I guess.
You got 1 bed mold that goes 90 degrees back.
Yeah. Let's just take it from this face, though.
Okay.
Right? So I've got a bed mold, and a bed mold. So I've got 3 bed molds.
You got a bed mold here, bed mold there, bed mold back there.
Well, let's just take it from the face. Let's not worry about this dimension.
Well, you only have 2 bed molds.
Well, it's a split fillet, so there's another.
Split fillet's happening in the cove.
It's a broken pediment. It's a broken pediment, so there's 3.
No, there's not. There's 1, 2. Oh, why do you say there's 3?
3.
Oh.
I'm milling the pieces.
Okay.
Right? So there's 3 pieces just from this plane.
Got
1,
it.
2, 3. So then the corona's next. There's 3 coronas.
Okay.
There's 3 coves and then 2 crowns. Because the crown is just sitting on top, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
As you're building it up. I'm just trying to get it in my head right. Is that right?
Okay.
And then you do the raking molding off the back of it.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Is this right? Or is it I'm just confirming.
Where this started, okay, was the concern about a big hat on top of this cabinet.
Yeah.
This to me is starting to get a little big, okay? The fact that if that's 2.5 inches, I'm now, there's some proportions if you wanted to look at this pediment that you could be playing with to know whether you're kicking out too far and knowing whether this gets too hatty. And so the bed mold is an area where I could adjust some height and weight.
You would go down?
Yeah, the Corona would be another area where you could adjust some things. And then the size of that cyma.
So what I'm seeing,
they could all be shrunk. And this is another area. This your soffit, right? How far this kicks out, and then of course it would kick forward too.
Yeah.
But those are 1, 2, 3, 4 areas that you can play with.
Fourth is the crown. Cimation.
Yeah. So there.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 places that you can play with the proportions so that so it doesn't look too top heavy.
So proportionally, the cove is going to be my thinnest piece, right?
Thinnest, like it's the smallest molding.
Like this, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Thinnest piece.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it here. So
it's not going to increase the height. It's going to increase the height the least.
Yes. And then the Corona is going to be the thickest piece. It's going to increase the height the most?
Not necessarily. No. And here's where you're playing with the eye that I don't really want you to use the math. I want you to play around with the eye. Remember, the Corona is just a flat spot. Okay? It's just a flat space that you can spend a lot of time with or not.
Because this would be more like a Tuscan because it's thicker.
Let me show you this. These are cornices from Winter Tour. Okay?
Brent is getting cornices from Winter Tour off the wall here. Wait, you're saying they're legitimately like from Winter Tour?
Okay. That's from Port Royal. Okay. I think. That might be Hampton. Anyway. Name the parts and pieces here, Jackson. Here's your cornice. Where's your
bed mold?
Yeah.
Here to here.
Yeah.
I would have said just that was the bed mold, but I'm learning this is too.
Correct. That's correct.
This is the modillions.
Mm-hmm.
So but they don't count.
Correct.
They're like their own thing.
Right.
Corona.
Yeah.
Cimation.
Yeah. Now look at the proportion.
Cimation, crown.
No. Cimation is the crown.
Okay. Yeah.
There's only 3 parts to the cornice. Bed mold, Corona, cimation. Notice how small this Corona is. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is an historic example. The cimation proportionally may be closer to the bed mold, but it's really dwarfing the Corona. But we've got these modillions in here, so maybe that's affecting some of this as well. You really have to just look at your eye's going to be the gauge to tell you whether it's right. This is a federal parlor, okay?
So something that just clicked for me. Sorry, I know I'm cutting you off. This cimation is not down here. It's just at the top.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
When Ryan and I were laying it out, we were trying to put a cimation down here and then a crown on top of everything. Yeah. But the cimation is a crown and it only goes on top.
Correct.
Okay.
So here is, now what are the parts and pieces here?
Bed mold, molding, Corona, cimation.
Right. Notice they did a gouged federal period. They did a gouged face of the Corona. Right. They have articulated where the modillions blocks are by doing this gouge molding here so that line picks up more. But look at that weird bed mold. I mean, that is a weird freaking bed mold, right?
Yeah.
But bed mold, Corona, cimation, these are better proportioned than that one because that other one, the cimation was huge, but the Corona and cimation and bed mold proportions, I think, are better here. And
what's leading you to say that just visually?
This cimation is 3 inches and that Corona is 1 inch. Okay, so it's the 3 to 1 on this one. Your cimation is 2 1/4, and this is 1 1/4, right? 3 to 1, almost 2 to 1, right? So that's what I'm saying. Those proportions are better. This one. Again, we've got a very small Corona here. Yeah. Okay, we got a denticulated bed mold because the dentals always go between.
So that is counted as a bed mold, part of the bed mold.
Yes.
In that one,
it always goes in between the 2 pieces of the bed mold. Okay.
Oh, that's just in the bed mold. It doesn't stop at the dentals.
Dental is part of the bed mold. Okay. So bed mold, very small corona. And here we're back to probably a 3-to-1, 2 to, 5/8, right? And so you begin to see these proportions in these historic ones. And so I'm feeling like you can really, you could probably
Really
take out
play
some of
around
that
with
corona, right? You could play with these things so that it changes, so that it doesn't look too massive on this thing. And I probably did, that thing, it should probably be more like that.
Yeah, 22.5 is kind of around the number.
Right? It should probably be more like this number than I kicked it up too much.
It's just such a small one. You almost want to do it bigger so that it shows more.
Well, you can see on this one, it's not very much.
No, it's not.
So,
okay, that actually makes a ton more sense, I feel like, than previously. One thing I'm curious about for this angle, the diagonal.
Yeah.
Is that always a 3/4 to 1 ratio?
The diagonal's always on a Georgian, it's 45.
Always 45 on a Georgian.
And it's like a 60 degree on Federal.
Yeah.
Not always.
So this Tuscan and Doric order, technically these are talking about columns, so I don't know if that changes things, but I know it's the same layout. But she's got these as 1D and then 3/4 D. So it's a rise of 3/4 and a run of 1.
Okay.
And so that puts the angle at like 60 degrees for those. And so that was kind of what I based my numbers off of. So what I've actually essentially done is I've made this shape, at the right angle, and I'm laying on moldings up against it, and I'm just saying, okay, my bed mold's going to go here.
I would think for what you're trying to do, you're going to want to be more 45 degree.
More 45.
Yeah.
Why? Is there like a reason?
Because that's kicking you out too far.
Well, I know, but I'm looking at this one, and it really shoots out.
Only because it's modulated.
Okay,
Because
so if it didn't have
are
these,
mutilated.
if it didn't have the mutuals, it wouldn't be.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Man, this is really helpful to understand. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So good.
Wow. Okay, I'm kind of just a little mind blown right now because this is super helpful.
Now I can build it, he says.
No, definitely not. Now I can start to try and build it. So, but I guess I was going to say I have a carcass and then I build these things out on top of it. But you wouldn't do that. Because I guess I'm looking at these moldings.
Yeah.
And on here, this is a lighter one. Less of a thing to deal with. And they've got like, this would be what I was calling my carcass.
Okay.
And so then I was going to just apply every molding to that.
Okay.
Maybe have my bed mold fall, like if this was a flat cutoff, maybe I was just going to slide my bed mold up against that. Is that a good way of doing it or not really?
Well, I mean, it's a weird way to me of how you're thinking about it. It's weird that you're like, this is my angle, I'm laying moldings on top of it.
Well, I guess I'm trying to get my proportions right. That's the whole reason I'm doing it that way.
Again, what I would do, the only way you're going to get your proportions right is by practicing. Okay, you're not going to get you can look at these books, and I mean there are thousands of examples that you can do. The only way you're going to develop your eye is by building it once, standing back and looking at it, and coming back the next day and going, yeah, that's ugly, or I did that right, or that works, or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you're going to be studying your work. I mean, welcome to building. I mean, this is what I do when I'm evaluating my stuff. I'm always looking, going, did we get that right? Did we fix that? Did we do that the proper way?
So do you just run a buttload of these moldings? So you've got like a couple options for bed mold, a couple options for your corona cimation, and then a couple options for your...
Well, I would start by drawing it all full scale by hand. And
I guess that's where I'm trying to do it. That's why I'm drawing these angles and then putting everything on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's a weird way of doing it.
Well, I just don't. I guess I'm so used to looking at these, I don't have to. The words that you're using to describe how you're trying to put it together are like, you're doing what? And so it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it does. And so maybe it'll make sense to somebody else. But
get in the comments. If I'm doing this weird, tell me if this makes sense.
I guess the way I would do it is I would be looking at historic precedent a lot of it, and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And so that's where I would start. And
I guess right now I feel like a copycat in a lot of ways because I've had a couple of books that are open, like this one included, and I'm like looking at these books and I'm literally just like copying the same things that they're doing on my drawings. And I'm like, that doesn't look right, or it looks weird, or I know I've got something off, whether it's drawing my pediment up too high or what. And then I erase it, and I go and I copy a different one, and it still doesn't look right.
I'd probably make one of these.
This is like the show and tell episode. We're like, we're pulling everything off the walls. This is awesome. Getting dirty.
I would probably do this.
He said he would probably do this, and he's walking back over with something.
I would do a small mock-up like this, okay, where I've just nailed moldings together. Yeah. And so
I guess you are just running a couple of moldings because remember, I literally have stock. That's all I have right now. I don't even have moldings.
No, and this is all stock. This is Windsor or Kukin moldings that I've just kind of tacked together.
Yeah.
Because I'm tacking it together so I can check it out, so I can look at it, so I can go stand back. And with your sketching abilities at this point, I don't know if we can call them abilities.
No, freehanding is different than drafting.
Your sketching disability. I don't think that you can draw it accurately enough that you could tack some of these together, put it up, and go, oh yeah, I like that, or I don't like that.
So I guess because I have no moldings run or anything like that, I'm going to go to the Williams and Hussey, pick like 8 different molding profiles that I think will work for different things.
But you're going to be looking for moldings that look like a bed molding, that look like a cimation.
Yeah. I guess
the Corona is just a flat piece of wood, so you're not really looking for anything there.
I've just seen some examples where the Corona has like little things to them, you know?
No, Corona is almost always flat.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. She's flat right there. All right, so I could do that. That's helpful.
Your freeze is flat. Your Corona is flat. You really only have 2 moldings, a bed mold and a cimation.
Can the freeze really change, or is the freeze always going to be exact same size as my architrave?
Well, I mean, in the Doric order, the freeze is exaggerated. It increases in size. And the same in the Federal period. If you look at Federal mantles where they have the decoration, they purposely exaggerated the freeze so they can fill it with decoration. So, again, there's freedom there for you to kind of play around with this thing, because I can show you mantles where there is no bed mold. All there is big freeze, kick out, and maybe a small molding at the top. You couldn't find a Corona on there if your life depended on it. So if you looked at historic mantle shelves and the mantle details, you would see a lot of examples where all the parts and pieces aren't there.
I guess that kind of scares me right now because I'm like, I just need some like standard practice. You know, this book has been super helpful because it gives me that. But then when I drew it like that, it was like, well, that didn't work. You know?
Well, someone emailed me this morning on YouTube from one of my videos and said, I don't understand the Craftsman door header. You know, what are those parts and pieces? And I said, well, they're really not,
anything.
There's a huge freeze and there's a cap on top. The cap represents your cornice, but it isn't. It's not really a cornice like this.
Yeah.
And the freeze is exaggerated, and all they've got for the architrave is just a little thin bead piece that goes underneath there. Yeah. So basically, they've got the tinea, they've got a big freeze, and they've got something that, hints at a cap. But I mean, that's a funky cornice if you ever wanted to, have a funky cornice or funky header.
Yeah.
And so, but realize how much play you've got with parts and pieces, because there's not even an architrave in there. Exaggerated freeze, cap barely. And so, where's my bed mold? There's really not a bed mold.
Well, I guess that's part of why I was describing it the way that I was, is because I don't have just a stock of moldings that are like sitting out.
I get that.
And so I'm running through like...
I would go to the William Hussey bin.
And just cut a buttload of...
Yeah.
Well, there's not even a bin of things that have been run on it. Like, I've got to go...
Well, then I would go to the lumber yard. I would go to find a good lumber yard.
But I get... Okay.
And try to find something there.
Would they even have moldings that are that small and that thin? Because we're talking tiny moldings, What I'm imagining I'm going to do is I'm going to just go run like 4 feet of like 3 different bed molds, 4 feet of like...
Well, what I would be doing if I was you is I would be...
And then I can play with it. if I do it that way.
Yeah, I'd probably be playing with a cove mold as your bed mold, right? And
a cove mold.
Yeah.
I gotta write that down. What do you mean by that in particular? If we're just like in theory, if someone didn't know what it was.
So a cove is this. Yeah, that's a cove mold.
Oh, okay. So it's really as my bed mold.
Is your bed mold.
Okay.
Only because the chances of you finding, let's say that this molding is 3/8 of an inch tall.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a teeny weeny piece of wood.
Yeah.
And so all you're doing is hinting at the bed mold, even though you don't have the classical, shape in here where the bed mold would go, because it's just so small, you're not going to see those lines anyway.
Yeah.
So you could simplify your thing by just finding a cove.
Could I show you what my bed mold, like what I hope my bed mold looks like? If I can. We'll see if I can execute on this. It's like this. Here's this. And it goes.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that hints at and resembles enough of the bed mold that I would let that. No one's going to be coming along going, well, your bed mold isn't architecturally pure.
You're saying that, but you would.
No, I wouldn't.
Finish it. You go.
Well,
okay, what's this?
That's all they've done. Your shape right there is that right here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's very similar to that. Yeah. Okay. I already have. I can start with that, and then my Corona's flat. Easy.
Easy.
Everyone loves flat. And then for the top, like for the cornice, that's crazy. Just get something that has a little something.
Notice that their split fillet. All it is a fillet.
Yeah.
It's just a square block. So I'm
copying that.
Your Corona and fillet.
Same thing. Just a
could
rabbit.
just be a rabbit.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We've designed it now, and then we haven't even talked about the hardest part.
The broken pediment?
The raked return.
Well, you know how I got around that.
I know. And I'm probably going to do it that way because the alternative, just for people who don't know what we're talking about, for the raking return, this part here, because math and angles work out the way that they do, this is a different molding than this, as weird as that sounds. And you can, if you draw it and you lay it out, you can do something like this, where you continue these lines down.
Right.
And then you have that profile right here, because it'll be like this, and then it'll be like that, or whatever. That may not even show up, but
it actually drops down off top of that.
Yeah. So basically, you can figure out what that thing is, but ultimately, it will become a different molding than what is here. So I'm gonna cheat it by angling mine and in cutting it and kind of coping it out, and then doing it that way. But one thing that won't leave me with a plumb cut on these things. The only way to do that is with an extra knife, right? With a complementary knife.
Yeah, I mean, the other way to do it is that you're actually taking your board.
Yeah.
And you're.
Do we need to flip this?
No, it's fine. You're taking your board and you are
just talk loud.
Transcribing the shape onto the board, and you sit this on a table saw, and you let your blade come in here and cut those moldings and cut those shapes out of it. So you don't have to make a knife necessarily. Yeah. You could run it
opposite across a table saw.
Yeah, you're running it at an angle so that the blade comes through here and is actually cutting that.
Is that?
I've done that before. It's
safe, a little sketchy.
Well, you got to take it in steps. And so you're going to be, taking probably an eighth of an inch at a time.
Yeah.
And so slowly you're raising up your thing until you get it right. It's not that bad because the blade's completely protected. Your board's running across the blade. It was never exposed because the blade's always hidden inside your wood.
Yeah. I'm not worried about that. I guess I'm worried about it catching a knot or something and then just zzz.
No, yeah, it doesn't. As long as you're not taking too much.
Yeah. So just take a half an inch.
Yeah. So, I mean, anyway, you're tackling one of the harder, things to tackle. And
I'm sorry, this is so scatterbrained and everything.
I probably wouldn't look at Get Your House Right as the thing, only because she's very canonical. Okay,
Yeah.
she's taking the Palladian pattern books and drawing those details there, or William Ware's American Vignola, and you're going to want to do something more
playful.
Yes,
I guess I'm like looking to that because there's so many things in that where it's like, if you do this, it's wrong. And it's like very tempting to go, I don't want to build it wrong. I want to do something right. I want to do something cool. I want to do something accurate. But I guess you're kind of giving a lot more freedom.
Well, and the other thing that's challenging on yours is the scale of everything.
Scale's weird. It's not a full door. If it was over a full door, it would help so much.
If it was over a house, it would help so much. You could actually use real moldings. We're using hints at moldings. And so it's
what I'm doing on that Williams and Hussey machine is I'm taking like, there will be like a full molding piece that'll look. Do you have that purple? Can you hand me that? It'll look like this. The piece will look like, and don't make fun of me.
Hard not to make fun of you, Jackson. Sorry. That's the knife in the Williams and Hussey.
Yeah.
Is that true?
It'll be some. It doesn't look as janky as that, but like imagine those as proper curves and everything like that. So there's a knife that's like that. And what I'm doing is I'm running a piece right here.
No, I get it.
So when it runs through, it's only getting that shape. And so, but it's such a hard exercise because I'm taking a knife and I'm putting it on a grid paper. I'm drawing out what it's going to look like and then drawing the lines the opposite. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I could go here and that's 3/8 of an inch.
Yeah, you're fighting too hard to get the right shapes on the bed molds and the cimation.
I guess I've been so locked in on that. It's a little freeing to hear you say that because I'm just going to go and on Monday, I'm going to set up the Williams and Hussey, run like miles of this stuff, waste a bunch of material, and then I'm going to go and just play with it.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
That'll be cool. I'm probably just going to do whatever works first.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to draw it full scale, get close, and then try to find the moldings.
How does this part work? This is my last question.
Well, the backing piece. I mean, this one it's thick. It's
really thick.
It's too thick.
2.5 inches, I think.
But that's been established because your column here is establishing.
They're matching
thickness of your wall.
Okay.
And so yours is probably going to be a little 5/8 inch, 3/4 at the most piece that this going to kick out of that you're going to scallop.
Yeah.
So that you can make.
So it'll just sit somewhere in the middle, and then I'll just run moldings around the front edge of it to kind of give it the impression of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's cool.
Depending on what you're going to put there, if you're going to put an urn
across there, I want to put it
across.
Well, I want to turn an urn eventually, but we haven't even approached urns turning. So I don't really want to go to Steve and go, okay, now I need to go turn something on a lathe.
Right.
And he'll go, okay, I got to go get you set up on the,
Right.
I'd rather just go, I can slap a cross together.
Sure.
And it's cool. I think it looks really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's super helpful.
Okay. We didn't get into some of the other stuff we were talking about that we might get into.
We did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So we can keep doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad that helps. It does. Realize that I'm tail end of my career and, you're front end of yours. And so you're just tackling something that is a high degree of difficulty that it's just, and I'm glad you're doing it.
Don't do this right now. Are you like,
no. I think you're going to learn a lot from this. I suspect that the ultimate execution of it, next year, you're going to have a lot more confidence doing it. But I think you should be practicing this. Mm-hmm. And even if you get to the point where you shake your head and go, okay, I just can't do this right now. That's okay too, because you're going to learn so much next year. You're going to, okay, I could have done that. I'm
going to do it. It's going to be done. It's going to be done. Okay. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
This is one flat piece here. Should I, they're running this split fillet piece flat. Should I do that?
I mean, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, I guess great question. No answer. I agree.
Yeah, no, I think that's a no-brainer.
Okay, cool. Also, this was one of my questions. I don't think I'm going to do it anymore, but I was planning on insetting my freeze slightly from the outside of my cabinet. I shouldn't do that. I should have it run the full length of my cabinet.
Well, I always like it to have a little bit of stepping back and forth. I think it's more visually interesting than if everything's flat and square.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching this episode of Show
How
and
to
Tell.
build your pediment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pediment edition.
Yes, exactly.
We're doing sash repair in 2 weeks.
Nice.
So whenever we talk next, we're going to have to do another show and tell.
Okay.
Of
The
windows.
sash repair issue.
You like windows, right? You're like kind of partial?
I'm pro window.
Yeah, okay. Pella, right? That's your preferred. Marvin, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Passion for Craft Podcast.